Hmm. Ooh. Uh-oh. That's not good. Hmm. Oh my goodness. Well, howdy smoke, howdy pipe pals and gals. Holy smoking pipe padre coming back at you on hot August night, quite literally. So as I make this video, let me kind of, maybe if I can turn the camera that way, you can see the, yeah, kind of see a little bit of the afternoon sky there. It's about a little bit after 6 in the evening, late afternoon. Got some thunderstorms coming in, I think. Hopefully, have to wait and see. Hopefully it's coming in. We have some kind of raging wildfires up in northern Nevada. And it would be nice to get some nice water on those to kind of calm them down a bit. And speaking of calming down, so I got this nice custom pipe from JB, my friend. And so tonight, as I was going through my cupboard, I kind of have a little cupboard where I kind of put all my pipes and tobaccos and filming stuff together. And so I remember finding this Peterson Irish Mist or Irish Dew. And as I was looking at it, my goodness, look at how closely, what a perfect match this this pipe tobacco is with the pipe. You know, look at that color. It's almost identical. It's just great. Reminds me when I was a kid and I had a forest green, I think it was called forest green or campus green, Schwinn Varsity 10-speed. Love this color. And, but, can we talk pipe pals? Okay. So in the very beginning was lighting up. Unfortunately, these little pouch tobaccos, and I've always loved them. I mean, Borkham Riff and Carter Hall and, you know, Half and Half and all those little store-bought tobaccos. You know, take me back. This is a Virginia Burley blend. Burleys do tend to be a little bit of have a bite to them. But I forgot that these old pouch ones, this is, I don't know where this came from. I saw it in one of my old collections and I said, oh, I better pull that out. And it reminded me of a thing called Irish Mead. I think it was a pipe tobacco called Irish Mead, and it was more of an aromatic. And I've been, this goes back like 40, 50 years now.
I started smoking a pipe because I liked the smell. First, I smoked raspberry glop and smelled like a walking fruit salad. Then I tried Angel's Breath, and the chicks went wild. But Angel's Breath tasted like dragon's fire, so I gave up the chicks to save my mouth. Then I tried Carter Hall, cool and smooth, and the aroma. Oh, the chicks are back. That's the word, the chicks are back. Carter Hall, the pipe tobacco that tastes as good as pipe tobacco smells.
Where does time go? And so it was a sweet pipe tobacco. It had a nice aroma. This has a nice aroma too. Nothing too heavy, but the problem with these, you will get tongue bite, and I haven't had tongue bite in years. That's because I smoked those tin tobaccos, those Boswell tobaccos. You know, those tobaccos you buy actually in a real pipe store, tobacco store. But I'm not going to complain. I'm going to make this video come heck or high water or thunderstorm. Hoping for a couple of good thunderstorms today, tonight, and tomorrow, hopefully. We'll keep our fingers crossed. But, excuse me. Yeah, these little pouch tobaccos, cute little, pictures, and I always thought they were so charming and, kind of romantic. I always like that kind of stuff. But dragon's breath in there. Let me tell you, dragon's breath, dragon's bite. So, got to really be careful. Got to sip this very carefully because it's a hot chili pepper. It's a hot tobacco, hot tamale. But it's a good pipe. Love this pipe. Thanks again, JB, for the pipe and the visit. Yeah. Good house guest. Very good house guest. Very, very congenial person. Yeah. So anyway, I'm here. I guess I'm due for my monthly check-in with you all. Still here, still casting a shadow. Kind of making the video from a different room. I think I used this room a couple of years ago for when the Oppenheimer film came out, and it's all in black and white and kind of film noir, and I always think of Venetian blinds. I guess that's kind of a trope, kind of a cliche kind of a thing, Venetian blinds, and the avant-garde kind of, well, not avant-garde, but I mean, it's a kind of a like I said, it's kind of a cliche kind of a component to noir films, So I'm making this video, let's see, August 12th. And so, yeah, when Oppenheimer came out 2 years ago in black and white, it's partly in black and white, partly in color. So maybe this video will be partly in black and white and partly in color. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to try something tonight. You won't even see it. You'll just see the video, and that's all you need to see. That's all you came here to see. But I have a dear friend of mine, priest friend of mine, and he's just called me this morning, and he wants to come up and he wants to work on his new little slideshow video movie. And I gave him a computer like 14 years ago, and it was one of the little plastic, maybe not polycarbonate MacBooks, one of the little cheapies. And I loved that little MacBook. It was a great little MacBook. But so I gave it to him, and he's been using it faithfully ever since. And the problem is that the software has evolved. It's moved on since those early days. And he still uses it to the best of his ability because that's all he knows. And but he realizes that little computer is pretty much moribund. It's, we could probably take it down to the core, Apple Core. It's called Apple Core down in Sacramento. And they do refurbished Macs, and they can take an old Mac and kind of give it some new life a little bit. If it's broken, they can fix it. In some cases, they can do some minor miracles, but for the most part, that little computer it does not take the new software, the new video codecs, and all that stuff. But again, surprisingly, he has made it last as long as he has. But he told me today that it's pretty much on its way out. He told me that a year ago, and he says, but and I told him, I said, we'll get you a new, brand new laptop, something really brand new. In fact, I'll just go out and buy him a new one. If that's what he really wants, I have no problem doing that. But he says, yeah, I know I have to learn the new iMovie. Now, most of you probably don't know this, and the ones that do know that I'm basically a Final Cut Pro editor, and I've been a Final Cut Pro editor since 2007, so it's going almost on 20 years. And, you know, I've been current with Final Cut Pro for the most part, and it's got some really near and endearing features to it now. The auto mask and the magic mask, or the magic, is it a magic? Or no, it's a magnetic mask. And now I think I call it auto mask. So it just does so many fantastic things, and it's wonderful. So, you know, maybe anyway. No, so that's what I was going to say is I'm not going to use Final Cut Pro because I can probably once this video is filmed, I can probably edit it within 30 minutes, maybe even less, you know, because I know what my format is and I know what little effects that I want to do, and then I play with it a little bit, add music from Epidemic Sound. One of my dear friends said I take it as a compliment, but they said, I watch your videos because they help me sleep at night. And isn't that sweet? Okay. But sometimes I do strange things, as some of you know, and I play with a lot of the software and the tech and stuff. Sometimes I have fun doing that. And I guess one of them was I was playing with sound design, you know, and I was trying to just do weird things just to see how it would sound and how it works. Oh, man. Been having a lot of congestion. So that was a very dissonant video, to say the least. It was kind of done that way intentionally. I forgot there was some docudrama series that had a lot of really interesting ambient sounds, you know, and that's what I was going for. And again, it was something that was be a little. If you were falling asleep, or you were, you know, kind of, you know, nodding off, it's gonna keep you awake. So that was the point. It was kind of like a double shot of espresso or something. It was that was kind of the video vibe I was going for, and they wanted to, you know, find something that's gonna lull them to sleep because of my, you know, my sing-songy voice, you know, and they were just gonna, you know, fall off into the arms of Morpheus, I guess, and then they found that video and they were like, man, that thing had all these weird sounds in the background and I couldn't sleep. I had to turn it off. And I said, well, I'm sorry. Anyway, that's just the way it goes, folks. You never know what you're going to get when you turn in a Holy Smokin' Pipe Padre video. That's for sure. So, you know, there's a couple of videos that are like that on YouTube. They don't have any commercials, and one of them is like a 6.5 hour video. No commercials. And it's not like one of those thunderstorm kind of videos. Those are out there. Those are nice. Those could be quite relaxing. Without the only problem is that some of them still have commercials, and unfortunately they will disrupt, you know, your sleep. So I have two standard things that I listen to on an ongoing basis. I've done one of these over 14 years now. One of them is it's a recovery video called Alcohol Lied to Me. And it is without a doubt one of the greatest audios, not videos. Well, actually, is it a video? No, it's an audiobook. That's an audiobook. And I credit that for keeping me probably straight and sober for 14 years. I listen to it like maybe once a week, sometimes every night of the week. It all depends. But it helps me to sleep, and that's what it did originally. And then I found out there were some hypnotic tracks at the end of it, which I didn't know for almost 2 weeks. And lo and behold, after I was listening subconsciously to these hypnosis tracks about not drinking, lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I wasn't drinking. Haven't had a drop in over 14 years. Well, almost 14 years. So that's one. And then the other one might shock some of you. It's the Columbine iceberg. And it's just this young guy, I'm assuming he's a young guy, who made this 6.5 hour video on Columbine. And he goes through every little, jot and tittle of that whole debacle, that whole horrendous affair, talking about Dylan Klebold and Rick, is it Rick Harris? I guess that's the other guy's name. And, talks about their psychology and, what they were like in high school and, how people made fun of them. And it just, and all the teachers that kind of denied the fact that there was problems at Columbine. And anyway, it's 6.5 hours and it gets into all sorts of stuff. I mean, I probably listened to about maybe an hour and a half and I'm down, I'm done. I'm inverted, but it goes on and it plays in the background. And for some reason, it's like white noise to me and it helps me to sleep. And I think the reason why it helps me to sleep is there's no commercials. Those commercials, and some of those commercials are like docu-commercials. They're like, there's one guy, he's a dog person, and they talk to him about how do you take care of dogs. It's supposed to be a commercial. It's like a documentary. It goes on for like a half an hour, 45 minutes, asking about, hey, don't get me wrong, I love dogs. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs, love cats, love animals, okay? But when I'm trying to sleep, I don't need an infomercial, like I said, a documentary infomercial, no. So what I'm going to do with this video tonight, once I'm done recording, I am going to, iMovie has gotten very sophisticated. It's not quite the same level as Final Cut Pro, but it does a lot of near and dear things, and it's not okay. They've really given it some powerful little features, and so I thought, well, I just do Final Cut Pro, and that's all I've done. I know what iMovie is, and I used it originally, I think maybe the first couple of weeks I had my first iMac that was given to me. Wonderful person gave me a gift of an iMac, and that's what started the whole thing. But so once I got Final Cut Pro, I just spent all my time learning Final Cut Pro. In fact, I learned the original Final Cut Pro, and then they changed it to Final Cut Pro 10, and now, it's a whole new day. But anyway, so I am going to try and edit all this in iMovie so I can kind of get my hands around it. So when he comes up in a couple of weeks, I'm not becoming a blubbering idiot, kind of like, well, I think it's over here. That's button you're looking for is over here. And the Ken Burns effect is over here. I think it's over here. I'm not sure, So that way, because it gets frustrating when I don't really know something and I'm trying to teach somebody else, even though they have zero knowledge of what's going on. I have just enough to where it's going to be dangerous and confusing, and it's just not a good thing. So I need to kind of reacquaint myself with the new iMovie. And again, like I said, it's got some really promising features. iMovie on the Mac is different than the iPad. The iPad's got a special feature called Magic Movie. And it can do some really cool things. If you're just trying to get basic, like you want to make a basic video or a slideshow, it can do some really cool things. It can give you a rough cut right off the bat that's editable. And that's one thing I like about that iPad version. But I don't believe, unless they've updated it recently, that the new iMovie has it on the Mac or the laptops or the desktop. Unfortunately, they're not completely synchronistic. They're not the same. They're slightly, well, not slightly different. They are different, and that's what a lot of people don't like about Final Cut Pro on the iPad. It's not really the same thing. It's Final Cut Pro, but it's the iPad version, and you kind of have to relearn the whole thing. And that's where a lot of people say, you know what? If you're not going to give me the real deal, I'm just not, because I don't have time to be. A lot of us, once we learn a certain program, you know, even though there are some people out there that, you know, and that's why they make money and they become experts, because they know all these platforms and they know them really, really well. But most of us learn one and we learn it to the best of our ability, and then we forget everything else around us. And that's not a bad thing. It's just human nature, I think. You know, it's like, hey, I've spent a lot of time, a lot of effort learning this, and why do I need to learn something else that's not quite as good and won't do the same job? And plus, Final Cut Pro has plugins. That's something that a lot of people, if you don't know anything about video editing, the magic for a lot of us, because we aren't animators, are plugins that kind of do some of the heavy lifting for you. Okay, and they're very endearing as well. You know, you get a nice set of plugins, and now you can really make your videos look really more professional. You know. Anyway, so I digress. So, trying to make this video a little bit more, you know, ASMR, but not totally ASMR. You know, if I was doing ASMR, I'd have one of my fancy high-end mics, and I'd be talking like this, and I'd be saying, okay, now what I'm going to talk about next is I'm going to talk a little bit about the new iPhone that's coming out in a couple of weeks. Okay, yeah. Anyway, I'm not doing ASMR, so there you go. But I will talk about the new iPhone that's coming out in a couple of weeks. And this year, I mean, every year I kind of come to this point. Do I really want to upgrade? Yeah, the little boy in me loves upgrades. I just love the brand new stuff. Yeah, everybody knows that. No big surprise there. But this year, Apple is going to introduce, as probably most of you know already, their new folding iPhone. You know, it's, you know, foldable phones have been around for what, maybe 10 years now? And they've gotten progressively better, and they're interesting. The one I really liked last year was the Z Fold 7. I mean Z Fold 7. I'm a little bit of an Anglophile, so sometimes I say things like aluminium instead of aluminum, and Z instead of Z, A to Z. So I say car park. I don't say parking lot. I'm going to the car park. Anyway, but the new iPhone's coming out, like I said, probably 3 weeks from now. And I am intrigued by the new the foldable, they're calling it the iPhone Ultra maybe. That's not the official name of it, but I think that probably will be the iPhone Ultra. Or who knows what they're going to call it. But so I started thinking about it, and I said, you know, it's interesting because a lot of things that we take time to buy, and a lot of times we do because it's new and improved. But what happens is you find out that there's a trade-off. That the old one did a lot of things that the new one will not do. And one of my big concerns is that I'm afraid, or not afraid, but I'm just concerned that the foldable will be too small to fit properly in my car that has the Qi charging. It may not marry up with the actual Qi charger in the car. And if it doesn't, then yeah, I guess I could get a tether again. I didn't like that. That was kind of an awkward thing. I just never did like that. I mean, it worked, but when I finally got this new vehicle and it has, the new Qi charging, I mean, no more cables. I love that. I just love that. And it's just great. So anyway, where did all that? Got some ash on my table here, and I don't remember tamping anything out on my table. Well. That's going to be a real, I wouldn't say it's going to be a showstopper, but it's going to be something that I'm going to go, wait a minute. If this phone isn't going to work with my gear, and I got to find some workaround, it's going to be less appealing. Plus, to be honest, it's a beta. I mean, this is their very first one. And the first ones, although they try to do the best they can to get all the bugs out, they don't. I'm also concerned about a case. I'm an old man, I'm a boomer. So boomers are extra careful, extra cautious, and we stick everything in some kind of a case, I mean, you're going to spend big money with this thing. It's supposed to be big money too. Apple just raised all their prices this couple weeks ago. Crazy. And so, you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, because it's kind of an investment. And again, my phone is usually my office in my pocket, quite literally. So I'm very reluctant to buy something that it won't fit in a case. I kind of went online and say, are they going to be making cases for these foldable ones? I don't know. I don't know if I guess they do have cases for the Samsung foldables. So I guess they do have cases for them. But I'm very concerned and cautious that then I put a case on it. Now it may not work with my Qi charger at all. Maybe without a case it might work, but now it's exposed, it's vulnerable, and I drop things just like everybody else, and I'm just thinking, man, I just don't want to drop that, not without a case. Also, what was I going to say? It's going to have some compromises to it. The battery life may not be that great. The cameras aren't going to be that great. And I just don't know. And then the new iPhone 18, they have a new special actual aperture that opens and closes like a real camera now. It's not software driven. So, for more light, it opens up, and for less light, it closes. That might be something which I would be maybe more interested in than just the novelty of a foldable. So if the foldable had some real advantages, but I'm already thinking I don't see advantages for the foldable. It'd be a kind of, like I said, a niche thing, kind of a novelty thing. I'm almost tempted to say, well, I'll just get the new iPhone and the new iPad mini, which is technically what the opened, actually the iPad mini will be a little bit bigger than the open new iPhone, but, and it would do more. I think the little foldable would not, well, I don't know. Well, certainly I'll say one thing, the iPad mini will run Final Cut Pro, at least the iPad version. So anyway, I know a lot of you are listening and you're getting kind of boring because a lot of you don't like it when I talk about tech, but and if it's kind of boring for some people and helps them sleep better, well then there you go. But anyway, so that's what I'm looking at doing right now. I'm going to be playing with iMovie once I'm done with the video, and then I will be looking into the future, into possibly getting this new iPhone. Or I could do something that I've never done in a long time, and that is just skip this year's version. The iPhone 20, the 20th anniversary edition, might be something that I could just say, you know what, I'm perfectly content with what I've got right now, and just wait until next year to upgrade, and then save myself some possible grief and headaches. That I'm kind of leaning, but 50% at this point. I'm kind of saying, you know what? if the foldable is not going to have a lot of great new advantages that I could take advantage of, that would really help me in making better videos, or would help me, be a better, give me more of a leg up on, basic office type tasks that I do on a daily basis. And I could say, well, maybe one of the things that might be a possible advantage is you would have the two screens, and you could do side by side more what am I looking here? What's the word? Sometimes I draw a blank here. Just productivity, kind of having multiple screens, multitasking. Although I got to tell you, I'm not a very happy multitasker. I think I get myself so frustrated when I'm trying to do 2 or 3 things at the same time. And really, you really can't. You can't, and because one of those things is going to suffer, and it's like trying to do 2 or 3 things when you're cooking. That's a recipe for real frustration and even disaster. If you're just going to watch a video or listen to some music when you're cooking with your iPhone, that's different. But if you're trying to do office work and you're trying to do whatever it is that you're trying to do on your phone, that's like a office related type of a thing, and you're in a conversation with somebody, and it's all office related or work related, and you're trying to focus on making a dinner, and you're trying to focus on that, and maybe you're focused on maybe making a cup of coffee or something, or feeding your cat or whatever it is, something's going to go wrong. And sometimes it goes really wrong. So I kind of feel like I'm kind of learning in my stage in life that maybe multitasking is just something I need to not do so much of. Focus on one thing, do it right, do it well, and then move on to the next task. And I've been kind of moving towards doing that kind of a thing as opposed to trying to do 2 or 3 things at the same time. Because I'm finding out that I forget. I'll have something on the stove, and I have to turn it in 3 minutes, and I'm now embroiled in this conversation, and I forget to turn the steak or turn the thing off, and I burn something, and it's just not worth it. So that's the only thing I would say about the foldable is maybe it might enable you to do more multitasking, which is something, again, I'm not really sure I want to be doing that much of at this stage in life, because it just seems like it's more of a recipe for disaster. So anyway, so I'm going to try and, like I said, when I'm done with this video, try and put it together using iMovie and see, because I've used iMovie in the past, but I've never really mastered it or really know my way around it that well. I mean, I can probably generate this video no problem, but I want to have a little better understanding of the functionality of it, so that when my friend comes up, I'm not kind of bumbling around, trying to figure it out along with him. Maybe, who knows, maybe that might be the best thing, I don't know. But I like to be able to, know what I'm doing and kind of point people in the right direction instead of trying to figure it out and, find out that I really don't know what I'm talking about. That's kind of embarrassing. So that's what I'm going to do tonight after I make this video, is you try to put it into iMovie on one of my little iMac Airs here, and just kind of see how it all plays out. Hopefully it plays well, and I can enjoy learning iMovie and some other little things that are kind of fun. I mean, it looks like it's gotten really sophisticated for iMovie. They got some really cool features now that they didn't have before. And so I'm kind of excited to kind of get in there. I just saw one video today, and I was completely surprised. I even sent the video to my friend saying, hey, check this out. This is what the new iMovie can do now. And I'm hoping that that's going to get him excited, that he's going to want to learn this. Because, he learned iMovie HD almost 20 years ago. And the problem is that the current MacBooks don't run that software anymore. They don't run that program. Sorry. think it's a 16-bit program anyway. Now everything's 32-bit and above. So unfortunately, that program is pretty much obsolete. It really is. And so that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm making this video for y'all. Hopefully it'll be a calm video that will just kind of help people to just relax tonight and not get their blood pressure up and just kind of, drift off into the arms of Morpheus and just kind of, before you know it, you're sawing some logs and you're feeling good and wake up the next morning and go, oh, did I finish listening to that video? That boring old guy that has that really quiet, calming voice? There you go. Some people say I have a calming voice in church. They'll say, you have such a calming voice. I go, really? Interesting. I never thought of that. Oh, so what was I going to say after that? Well, I did want to kind of talk a little bit about my concern, my growing concern that it seems to be rearing its ugly head. And it's this whole fascination and infatuation with communism. Not just wokeism and socialism, but full-blown communism. And we see these quote-unquote communist candidates. Let's see, one was named Al Sayed or Al Sayed, or this other little gal from Hong, I guess she got her Hong handed to her last night in the primaries. She lost. Of course, now they're talking election interference or election tampering. I don't know. They're going to probably cry all the way to the bank. And then there's moron scam Dami, that crook. And, the problem is that the young people today, and probably boomers too, I'm not going to lie, there are boomers out there that want the government to basically take care of them from cradle to grave. But the problem that they just don't understand, they don't get it. They hear everybody's going to have, we're all going to be quote unquote equal. Everybody's going to have their own government house. Everybody's going to have their own government Medicare. Every government, a lot of people already have government Medicare, They're going to have their own government, food stores, grocery stores, government owned and operated grocery stores. And if people just did some basic reading about what communism, how it's not only failed, but the quote unquote, well, we're all going to be equally miserable. Yeah. Those quote unquote government, health care for all. Yeah, you'll be lucky to get an Advil or an aspirin when you go into the doctor. And you'll probably won't even see a doctor. You'll just see some orderly, and all the medical equipment that really depends upon donors, very wealthy donors to supply it. Those machines won't be there. People that need really heroic life-saving procedures. There won't be the trained physicians to do it, and there won't be the equipment to do it with. It'll be it'll all be equal. Yeah, but if you look at the level of equality, it's basically it's worse than below the poverty line. It's everybody's miserable together. And there's no way you're going to get out of it now. Here, if you don't like the standard of life you have, then guess what? You can maybe figure out some ways to start a business. Maybe figure out ways to make money. And I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about robbing banks and that kind of thing. I'm talking about, good old-fashioned entrepreneurship, get trained in a job that you might want to do, So, but that is the American dream, and it's still alive. It's just that people have kind of forgotten about it because it requires that you invest a part of yourself in the early stages of your life or the early stages of any endeavor. You've got to kind of start at the bottom and work your way to the top. And a lot of people, especially young people, have never been taught the value of work, because a lot of things have been handed to them over and over and over again. Look at sports used to be a place where you kind of had to learn those hard lessons, in your early years. You're not always going to be a winner. You're going to lose. You're going to fail. And you're going to have to figure out, well, how can I be better? How can I better myself? Those are valuable lessons. And then if you feel like, well, you know what? I'm not a sports person. I may be more of an artistic person. Maybe I'm more of a person that likes to think and think deep thoughts, and I write things. I can't talk very well, but I can express myself in writing. Maybe I could make a living as a writer. Maybe I could make a living as a musician. Or maybe I could learn a trade. Trades are wonderful, man. If you spend those first 5 years learning a trade, then you can become a journeyman, and then you can become your own contractor, within 10 years. Maybe sooner if you're a little bit more of a get up and go kind of a person, And I'll tell you what, the trades right now I think are where it's at for a lot of young people, because once you learn those skills, whether it's an electrician, a plumber, a carpenter, a contractor, man, you once you learn those skills, you've got marketable skills. Let me tell you, contractors up here are like hen's teeth. They're like gold. Once you find one, you adopt them. That's what we do. When we have a good contractor, we basically take them down to City Hall and we adopt them. So you're part of the family now, dude. You owe us. It's kind of like a mafia kind of a thing. Hey, I'm the Godfather, okay? I made him a deal he couldn't refuse. Anyway, but that's what it's all about. Is getting those people, those quality people, and you can become a quality person. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. You got to learn. It's just like learning how to make a French omelet. I've been spending the last week and a half trying to learn the secret of how to make a French omelet. Now I've gotten to a point where I can make the omelet. Now I just got to figure out how to get it to where I fold it and it looks like it tastes delicious. I got to tell you, the first ones were like, ugh. They were not good. But now I've got the consistency and the texture. I probably just need to get another pan, which I don't really want to do. Not because I'm cheap, but I don't really want to get a Teflon pan. But that would be the easy way to do it. Then it'd be a no-brainer. It'd just be perfect, No, but I'm using stainless steel, and there's an art. If you're really a chef, real chefs know how to use stainless steel. And it's better than Teflon. But it's just like when I was in the military. Actually, before I was in the military, my brother taught me how to spit shine shoes. And it's an art. Not everybody can do it. Well, I take that back. Most people can do it, but it just requires a lot of patience. And, the other day I was sitting there trying to make this omelet, and I go, every time I make it, I'm scorching it, I'm burning it, it's not coming out right. And then finally I said, well, okay, just, I started thinking about spit shining shoes, because I used to be an artist at that. People would see my shoes and they would think I spray painted them with lacquer. I said, nope, that's the real deal. And they just couldn't believe it, but how'd you get that mirror shine? It's like plastic on there. I said, but it's spit shine. It's not plastic. It's the real deal. And the reason why is it's a little bit of patience. It's a little bit of the paste, the kiwi paste, just a little bit of moisture, very little bit, and it's the circle pattern, and you start working it in. It takes time, but once you've learned that patience is the key, the secret, then within a few minutes you're going to start seeing a really glossy shine, and then eventually it works into a mirror shine. But it takes time. And the same thing with the omelet. So I was sitting there the other night, and I started getting frustrated like I normally do. And finally I said, wait a minute. I'm freaking out about this, and I don't need to. And I've watched a lot of videos, real chefs from France, and this one little gal, she doesn't say hardly anything. I mean, she says maybe two or three words in English, and the rest is all, and she doesn't even speak that much in French. But she just breaks the eggs, she beats them up, and she coats the pan. Of course, I think she's using a cast iron skillet. I think. Anyway, But I noticed that part of the video, she just lets it sit there. After she gets to a certain stage, she just lets it sit there and lets it, do its magic. And then she puts some fromage on there, and then she starts to lift it and fold it, and Bob's your uncle. And so that's what I probably need to do. I got the first two parts of it where I've got it all, it's all coming together. And it's just that I'm having the hard time now getting it that perfect fold, because it kind of breaks up because of the pan's it's not letting go of the egg. And I think part of my reason is I don't remove it at a certain time. There's a certain time you break it loose, and then it'll cook on its own and it'll be fine. But they taste delicious. I had one yesterday and one today, and the consistency is I mean, if I had to serve it to somebody, they would enjoy it. It's delicious, it really is. But it just doesn't. I haven't got that fold part. That's the next and final phase of learning how to make a perfect French omelet. So I'm getting close, but it takes patience. And unfortunately, a lot of young people today were never taught patience. They weren't even taught effort. Like, they just hand you things. You get a participation trophy. You can be standing on the sideline. You're not even in the race to begin with. You're just standing there watching everybody else, and you get a participation trophy. It's crazy, because we don't want people to fail, because their feelings will get hurt. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm kind of glad I was one of the last of the generation where, teachers would see that, seeing kid fail at something was not considered a bad thing. There was a lesson to be learned in failure. Now, yeah, if you made an idiot of yourself, like I used to do in sports, because I was so uncoordinated. I'm not that bad, but I just didn't have that. Well, I never got a chance to even really play sports, so I had a little bit of a disadvantage. I'm not whining and complaining and saying, oh, I'm a victim or anything. I just that it just never was anything that I was really into, and I just never had anybody take the time to, kind of teach me. But like my brother taught me how to ride a bike, so that was a great thing. At first, the first few times I basically wanted to quit, and they wouldn't let me. He goes, okay, well, that's enough for today. We'll try again tomorrow. So tomorrow comes around and going, well, what did I learn yesterday? And then you kind of, you start putting it together. And then it's like riding a bike. Once you know it, you learn it, it's just life. And, but a lot of the young people today, they basically have invested their time and their money, well, actually not their time and money, maybe their time, but their parents' money, or a grant company that loans them some money to get a grant so they can go to college. And they waste that money and they waste their time on frivolous degrees that are completely unmarketable. They're a waste of time. They're not worth the paper they're printed on. Feminist studies and, multiculturalism and all this garbage. That's just, again, it's just woke stuff that, this whole woke thing, and even the communism thing, it probably, for the most part, I mean, I'm not saying it's not a serious concern and that it's not going to be something that we're going to have to seriously confront. But basically, it's kind of like, it's a fad. I think to some extent it's faddish in its own ways. It's kind of like the hippie movement, in the 1960s. Those of you who are my age may remember the hippie movement. And, it had its heyday. And then, of course, after the Manson Tate LaBianca murders, which we kind of commemorated the last couple of days ago, August 8th through August 10th, Sharon Tate and Wojtek Wokowski and Abigail Folger and Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring were murdered there in Cielo Drive. And sad to say, that was such a horrific thing. And then the next night, after that, then the LaBiancas, Leno and Rosemary, were murdered. I just remember that as growing up. I think I was like 9 years old when that happened, and it just shocked everybody. I mean, we were just like, whoa. And I think that helped to bring kind of it was kind of like a bucket of cold water on the hippie thing. And then people kind of started waking up and saying, you know, there's more to life than sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I think we still have some people like that still want sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And now they're in, you know, they're running for Congress, I guess, in Minnesota and Los Angeles and New York. Now, actually, New York is a whole different animal. We've got Islamic infiltrators that are trying to destroy this country from within. Looking at you, Ilhan Omar and Moran Scamdami. You know, what a bunch of these people hate this country. They really want to take it over. And at least they're honest about it now. Maybe we'll. I hope we don't have a second civil war, but we are going to have some kind of a revolution, and we're going to have to probably take back what we've lost. You know, and again, it has nothing to do with. I mean, okay, the people that are the real racists are the ones who are trying to say, well, all white people are bad now. You know, I'm public enemy number one. You know, but by the way, I just want to let you know, I let all my slaves go last week. I did, I really did. So they're gone. I only have one left. Yeah. And they know who they are. But anyway, yeah, it's all racism, but it's not the racism that, you know, like, you know, white supremacy and, you know, neo-Nazis. No, it's Islamists and the LGBT and the BLM people, the people that really hate people because of their skin color. You know, it's not good. It's not good. And unfortunately, the beauty of America is it's a pluralistic society. You live your life, you know, and God bless you. But when you come to people like me, who's a Christian, a Catholic, a white guy, a white male guy, and you basically say, you're an oppressor, you're a colonizer, you're the evil guy, you're the bad guy, we're coming after you. No, you're not. No, you're not going to do that, okay? Now, if you don't want to have white friends, or you don't want to have Christian friends, or you don't want to like Catholics, okay, fine, go you do your religious things. And if you know, if you want to be Islam and you want to worship Allah and say Allah Akbar and all that stuff, hey, that's fine. But when you come and say, now you're going to either convert or die, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing it. No. No, I don't have a problem with somebody that wants to open up a Seventh-day Adventist church next door to here. Don't have a problem with that. I would have a problem if somebody wanted to have a mosque up here. That would be concerning, because knowing what they teach and what they believe, I would be very concerned. I am suspicious. Yes, I am. I have a right to be, because of what they've done already. 9/11. You know, October 7th, look what happened just a couple years ago. You know, again, I'm just saying that we need to wake up and stop letting people try to take over our country. We need to stand up and be proud to be Americans. Are we perfect? No. Doesn't mean that we don't have sins to atone for. We're not, you know, completely innocent in things. We've done things that are horrible, but again, we're human beings. But to intentionally, I think, will the destruction of people because of their race or their ethnicity or their religious beliefs, like certain people in this Islamic culture. I'm not saying all Muslims are like that, but the Quran is very clear that jihad is part of their faith, and it's just to take over the infidel. You know, either you convert them, you enslave them, or you tax them. You know, and look at Sharia law. It's rearing its ugly head in lots of places now, and we have people they live in America, but they are not Americans, and that's a tragedy. And if you think we can just ignore that and it'll all go away, no, I don't know what you're smoking, but it's not good. Let's just put it that way. Well, okay, so I hope this video was a little bit better on the ears than previous videos. Thank you for taking time to watch. I wanted to make a little personal shout out to Philip Rivera. Philip, I got your email the other day. I'm going to try to reach out to you. What I'd like to talk to you about is crafting a new pipe for me. If you're still in the pipe making business, but let's talk about that offline, okay? But I haven't forgotten about you. I got your email the other day, and I'm going to reach out to you probably maybe the next day or two, okay? But I do forget, so if I forget, just be patient with me, okay? All right, well, thanks an awful lot for watching tonight. And as I like to say, in closing, light up your world and light up your pipe. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.